get started.
Yeah, let's get started. We've got a lot to talk about today. We're also going to try to be very efficient with your time and see if we can get as much information in the next half hour or 45 minutes as possible. So my name is Nicole Willier-Fenton. I'm the Content Marketing Manager at the Continuing and Distance Education Department. And this course is in conjunction with Robert Lerner College of Medicine. We'll talk about that. And Dr. Monique McHenry joined me today. She is the instructor on both of these courses and our expert in-house on cannabis science and cannabis plant biology. We'll go over the courses, the difference of the courses. We'll talk a little bit about the state of the cannabis industry. That's a big, giant topic. So we're just going to kind of talk about how it relates to the course and some of the information that's provided in the course about the industry. And really, one of the big things that we talk a lot about here is what is evidence-based cannabis education and how that plays into the two courses that we have here. So, and who is this course for? You know, you may be thinking about, on the other end today, you know, is this the right course for me? So we'll talk a little bit about some of the people that we've seen take this course in the different roles, and then we'll go over those logistics a little bit too. So I'm looking forward to your questions. So as I mentioned, we have Dr. Monique McHenry with us today, a botanist, and so plant biology and the science and the study of plants is really a fascinating field that she brings to, and that experience she brings to our Cannabis Science and Medicine, and the director of the Medical Cannabis Center for Research and Education, and co-founder of the Case Institute, a plant-based pharmaceutical research enterprise. So a lot of science and medicine connecting with our cannabis courses here. So let's talk about, just real quickly, in terms of the two courses that we have a Cannabis Science and Medicine, and we have a Cannabis Plant Biology. I'm sure you get all the time. What is the difference between those two? Before we dive kind of into the details, what is the kind of the elevator speech that you give sometimes about the difference of those two?
Right. Well, there's some similarities, right? So they all have a history section, and they all have, you know, a basic pharmacology and even basic medicine section, and then of course they all cover business and policy and law. But then the Cannabis Plant Biology program really dives deeper into plant biology and agriculture, and the Cannabis Science and Medicine dives deeper into clinical studies and medicine.
Yeah. And we talk a lot about the need, you know, if anything, it's how we build the curriculum and the courses, but the real need for evidence-based education, because that is something I think that's lacking out in the market today. And have you found that that's true?
That's true, yes. I mean, there's so many online opportunities now for cannabis, but they're not all created equal. And, you know, we were the first medical school to offer a course, so we have that experience. We've been doing this for years now, so we know what people are going to want to get out of the course. And then we provide this evidence-based approach, which means we're not using the anecdotal reports out there. We're focusing on the peer-reviewed science and something that has a rigorous study behind it. And that's the data and the content that we're presenting in our courses.
Nice, absolutely. Thank you for that clarification. I think that's really important for people to understand. And so we are seeing that Tara can't hear. Hopefully that things are okay on your end. If somebody else is not hearing, let us know, or if it's an issue maybe on Tara's end. So let's get into the two courses here.
Sure.
We are talking first about our Cannabis Science and Medicine course. And, you know, I'll go over a little bit, but I'd love you to kind of expand on this. We've talked about using evidence-based science in designing the program, and a unique online experience as well. And I also think it's really wonderful, too. It talks a little bit about, it builds a network of professionals. And so there's an opportunity for the folks in the class to network with each other. And you also bring in other perspectives as well into the course. And meaning other instructors and different, so really giving someone a very broad perspective as what is cannabis science and medicine. Can you walk us through a little bit about the outcomes and the intention?
Sure. So the intention of the course is to provide like a technical and science-based background for people in many professions. So if we're just talking about science and medicine in many professions. Many are medical professionals or holistic health coaches or in the holistic health field. And what we want is the participants to be able to take away an understanding of the risks and the benefits of using cannabis therapeutically,
Right.
as well as that basic background science that I was talking about too.
Right. And what are some of the folks that you have as kind of, not guest speakers isn't the right term, but people that come in and provide different perspectives?
Right. So we have lots of faculty from the university that we've brought into the certificate program. We have a medicinal chemist, and he's fantastic, and he gives a plant chemicals lecture. We have a pharmacologist, and she's wonderful at breaking it down. We actually have two different pharmacologists, one a clinical pharmacologist that we use for the plant biology program, and then our pharmacologist at UVM that we use for the science and medicine program. We have a physician, and he's actually a physician scientist, and he provides information for both programs. And then in the science and medicine program, we've brought in a couple specialists in their field, like an endocrine, someone who studies endocrine cancers.
Oh, wow, great.
Yep. And in the plant biology one, we've brought in people who are studying hemp right now through our extension programs. We have horticulturists, we have pest management team, and then we have industry people come in too, because we need to have that perspective. And they're all scientists or business people. So we have a business leader, and we have a chemist who was working in the extraction field who provides information.
Such a broad perspective.
Yeah,
Really well-rounded on top of the evidence-based. And so this particular science and medicine provides, as you mentioned, you go into policy and history and law, but it then dives into advanced concepts related to pharmacology and medicine.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we have a question here from Kristen. Please provide instructions for how to receive webinar via email. Oh, okay. We will provide that afterwards. There will be a recording of this webinar, and we'll send it out if you have registered today, or else that's why you're here, we'll be able to have your email address and send it out to you afterwards. So don't worry about that. We will share that with you afterwards. So this slide, we're still talking about the cannabis science and medicine in particular. So this slide is really reflective, I think, of what you've talked about today in terms of like the cyclical nature of the course materials. And what I think is interesting too is I'd love to hear a little bit about those student projects. What is some of the work that students end up doing in this course in particular?
Right. And it's always my favorite is the student projects, and it's always my favorite in every course I teach because it's where the instructor actually gets to sit back and be the learner. And the student projects are phenomenal, and most people do end up rating them as one of their, things they take away with the best learning experience from the course. They appreciate all of the content, and they love the aspects. So the student projects, what we have them do is we provide a platform for them to upload a PowerPoint. And then, because it's an online learning environment, they basically can either video record or audio record their comments. So they're giving a presentation.
Yeah, they're teaching.
Yeah, and then everyone else in the class has a week to look at that and comment on it, and it starts this incredible discussion. And then the topics are amazing and so advanced these days. Some people, especially people not in the medical profession that are in the cannabis science and medicine course might choose a business-oriented topic. Like they might, look into the rules and regulations in a particular state and kind of give a business plan, an overview of what they would do if they were starting
really
that kind of
actionable.
business.
Yeah.
And then, a lot of medical professionals really deep dive into a particular symptom or condition that they want to just scour the literature and see if there's anything out there that gives evidence basis for the treatment of cannabis.
Interesting.
And with this condition.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Yeah, it's great.
That sounds really wonderful. Gives you an opportunity to really deep dive into it. We do have a question as well. It looks like we have a question from Tara. Let me see if I can find that one too. I'm a nurse, and would this be beneficial for me?
I think there are lots of nurses that we get lots of registered nurses as well as physician's assistant and that take the course. And yes, I think some of our former students have gone on to be nurse educators in this field now.
Yeah.
So we have some background there where we have lots of nurses taking it, and it depends. It depends on your intention with the course.
Right.
What do you want to get out of it, and what do you want to use that information for?
And it looked like Jennifer was asking the same question, so that's good. So maybe we have some nurses with us today. Welcome. We also have a question, too, from Kelly. How are students evaluated at the end to receive the certificate?
So UVM certificate policy, when you're earning a professional certificate, is that you receive basically a 70% or higher. So your assignments are graded, and there are assignments, every week when we say about 5 to 10 hours, it is, 5 to 10 hours of work. You're taking a
course.
certificate program.
Yep.
It's a course.
Yep.
And what you receive on those assignments then gets calculated and tallied at the end. And if you receive a 70% or higher, you earn a certificate of
Completion.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hopefully that answers your question, Kelly, as well. And Morgan's asking a little bit more detailed about the student projects. Regarding the student projects, in states where cannabis is illegal, how do students navigate that barrier? I suppose you could research anything. It doesn't have to be in your own state, I would imagine.
Yes, you can absolutely research anything in your state. And they're not actually doing, they have a week where they're presenting them, and they are preparing them the whole semester. But most students are not actually reporting on a current research project they are doing.
Got it.
We do have a lot of extremely knowledgeable and talented people who take the course, and so sometimes we have researchers who are actively doing a clinical trial.
Oh, interesting.
And they'll report that.
Yeah, and what they're actually working on at
What
the
they're
time.
actually
Oh, wow,
working on.
that's
Yeah,
fantastic.
we've had, usually at least one in each group that does that. Or a business professional too, who is actively, has a license in a medical legal state and is talking about that, but it's not something that you're hands-on doing.
Right. And so whether it's legal or not in your own particular
Yeah.
state shouldn't really influence the project.
Information is always legal too
Right.
in our country.
That's a good way to
now.
present it, right. Let's hope that stays that way forever. We also have a question too. This is a great question from Jennifer. Can the courses be taken over time? And I think that's an interesting question because
Yeah.
the certificate, the Science and Medicine and the Plant Biology are a 8 and 7 week course that is structured over that time frame, but there's also the modules. And so I'm wondering if that might be a way to kind of dip your toe in as you have time.
So I can answer this better than I did last time we ran this webinar, because we actually had a student now who has taken both courses at the same time.
Yes.
And he enjoyed his experience. Either he was a man with amazing amounts of time, but he was a medical professional, and he did extremely well in both. I'd like to think he must have had a lot of time to work on both, and I think he enjoyed taking both at the same time. His background knowledge was high coming in, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend taking
Yeah.
them both at the same time. What we usually recommend is you should start with the plant biology course, and if you think like, oh, I'd really like to learn a lot more in medicine, then you could jump into the cannabis science course the next time it's offered, or you could take those modules you
Yes.
mentioned,
Yeah.
because the cannabis science and medicine does have overlap with the cannabis plant biology, except the modules don't really have overlap that are standalone, and those are particular clinical
and,
topics.
yeah.
So that could be another option to do.
Maybe start with plant biology and then
Yeah.
supplement in some of the modules that are a little bit more science and medicine focused.
Exactly.
Interesting. And we'll share, Kelly, if you could just put up maybe a link just directly over to those modules. We'll share a link to those too so that you can see what we're talking about.
Okay, great. And, I will say that, the plant biology, we do get a lot of people that are in the hemp industry or in agriculture. And so it is very plant focused. Now, that medical professional I was mentioning who did take both thoroughly enjoyed learning all of that. But I wouldn't want to misguide, somebody in healthcare who's really just looking to learn more about pharmacology and medical benefits.
Yep.
Because plant biology, we have a whole module on agriculture. Yeah.
Good point. So I'm going to I see more questions are coming
Okay,
in.
great.
And these are wonderful. Thank you so much for doing that. I'm going to just move on just a tiny bit so that we can dive a little bit more into plant biology
Yeah.
as well. While we're still on cannabis science and medicine, I just wanted to share a few comments from some students that just completed that course and really talking about the balanced information, the science-based research and evidence that's presented, the many aspects of cannabis. And I think
Yeah.
that's why I was really curious to see all the guest faculty and guest speakers that come in. It just gives such a broad spectrum because the cannabis industry is so large and it's hard, I think, to navigate where you want to go in terms of information. So you really do provide a very broad spectrum and aspects of the industry. And then interacting with other participants. This is what's, I think,
Yeah.
wonderful about an online course, and that we really push in terms of UVM's online courses as well. This is the same rigor as a course you would be sitting in a classroom. And so it's not easier. It's just as difficult. It is at the same academic standards that University of Vermont you would expect, and especially in connection with Larner College of Medicine. And so, but there's really an opportunity to build your cohort and your network with peers. Have you seen that happen?
Absolutely. Every single cohort, really bonds, and they usually form some sort of social media group to stay connected.
Yeah. Oh, great.
Yeah, and I believe some of them even, some of them do come visit us here, and we welcome that.
Yeah.
And some of them meet up in the states they're in, because, we get students from all over the world.
country. Yeah. Yep.
All over the country,
Yeah.
but all over the world.
Yeah.
So we have a couple students in the Caribbean, and, they've
Yes.
met up, and the students in California usually meet up. And, it forms this great network, and people really enjoy that part of the course.
And there's networking with the folks who join from a teaching perspective too. So you're really opening up your perspective of cannabis from a professional, from an educational, and from a networking perspective too.
Yeah.
Let me just jump in for a second let's go into cannabis plant and biology. And so again, evidence-based science to build this program as well. A engaging, informational, broad perspective in terms of the online curriculum
Yeah.
and the experience, but this is where we're diving into the advanced concepts of plant biology and agricultural. So I'm going to zip over, because I think that helps too, to see the slide that has kind of the different modules and the different information. So maybe walk us through, you've talked about some of the overlap in terms of the information provided, but then when we dive really into the plant biology for cannabis.
Right. So if you're looking on your screen, that yellow box on the top, kind of at 12 o'clock there, that's the overlap box.
Yep.
And then pretty much all the rest of those boxes are not. And so you can see that it's listed as plant biology, plant chemicals, hemp horticulture, plant harvest, post-harvest processing. Then you get into a brief overview of cannabis and medicine. And then the student projects and career development. So more than half of the course, I'd say, is plant focused. And so you have the horticulture, the post-harvest processing in there. And so that's really where you're doing that deeper dive into the plant world, plant side.
And then this course in particular, you referenced a little bit earlier that some folks joining us from our College of and so this one is in particular in connection with the College of Agricultural and Life Sciences. So we
Yes.
also have people that are doing this hands-on work now coming in and providing their perspective in this course related to growing and practices and things too.
Absolutely. And that's where, having a agricultural college offer this course. And this agricultural college has had a history with hemp. We have a researcher who's had a DEA license to study cannabis for years.
many years, yeah.
Yeah, and so we have a extension farm that has been growing cannabis on it for years, and we've moved some of those projects into greenhouses
Yep.
and inside
Yep.
as things develop and people get more interested in kind of the chemical production side of hemp. So we're doing research there. I'm involved in a lot of the research
Yeah.
as well. And so we always have active hemp growing on campus, even when it's -20 in January.
Right.
We
In
still
the
have
greenhouse.
we still have a
The
greenhouse.
greenhouse is a
that-
wonderful place to
Yeah.
visit because it's so warm. I like this question too. Stephen says, is this course, and I would assume you're probably asking about the science and medicine, but maybe
Yeah.
we'll look at either meant for non-medical professionals.
So you can be a non-medical professional and take both courses. Whatever background knowledge is needed for you to understand the modules, that's going to be your responsibility to get that background knowledge. But we do provide a short module for pharmacology background. But for non-medical professionals, you could take either course. It just depends what you're more interested in learning about. If you really want to get a deep dive into the medical side of cannabis, I would say go with science and medicine. If you want to get a deep dive into the plant side of cannabis, I would say go with plant biology.
Great perspective.
We don't have that many medical professionals take plant biology, I will say.
Yeah.
It's a different audience, but like I said, there are
There are
some.
people,
So
yeah,
you
interested
have
in both,
highly
yeah.
qualified medical professionals in plant biology as well.
And we have a question here from Thomas. Would these courses help someone who's interested in getting into the recreational market?
Well, yes, it's the same plant, right? So cannabis sativa is hemp and it's marijuana. Now, if you're using that marijuana for medicinal purposes or recreational purposes, the information that you're getting in this course
relevant.
is the
Right.
same.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Hopefully that answers your question too. And Rachel is asking how long have these programs been active at the university? As Dr. McHenry mentioned, we were the first medical school with Larner College of Medicine to launch the certificate program in the Science and Medicine. I think we're going on 4 or 5 years with that particular program. And then the plant biology course in connection with our College of Agriculture and Life Sciences is new. This is the second semester that we're essentially offering that
Yeah,
course.
it launched
Yep.
last year.
Yep.
So
But that doesn't mean that there hasn't been a long history, as you've mentioned, in terms of the agricultural and life sciences. There has been, I'm not even sure how long, it's Heather Darby, right, who's been working,
yes,
yeah.
Heather's been working. I mean, she and I have been working together on hemp for almost 4 years, and I believe she was doing it even the year or two before that. So
yeah.
4 or 5 years again, and it was more, once hemp became not a controlled one substance, our college, of agriculture and life sciences said this would be a great opportunity
Yeah.
to teach people how we're growing it because it's no longer a controlled one
Right.
substance.
So there's been a lot of history there, so now we're just
Yeah.
moving forward with offering an online course. Civil engineer, Kasia says, can a civil engineer enter into this course or courses?
I'm trying to think if we've had engineers. Of course you can.
Yes.
I mean, I would imagine you might need some basic pharmacology
Knowledge, or just,
knowledge,
yeah,
background
yep,
knowledge. But actually, I'd wonder which course
Yeah.
you were looking to take. So if you were looking to take the plant biology, I would say your basic pharmacology knowledge is probably fine. But if you were looking for the science and medicine, that might be one thing you might need to remediate a little bit. But absolutely, yeah. I mean, we have historians, we have politicians, sometimes we have business people who take it. So we do have people that don't have a science background, and they just have to work hard at and making
Yeah.
sure they get that down.
grasp that. And so, Kasia, if you want to, you're more than welcome to share with us which one that you're considering, and then Monique could share some different perspective. I have a question from Daniel. The Commission of Narcotics of the United Nations does not agree with the World Health Organization's recommendation about recognizing the benefits of medicinal cannabis. And for CBD out of the psychiatric drug list, your opinions on these, and I know you recognize the typing a little bit, so I'm trying to understand what you're saying. What are your opinions? These recommendations will agree in March 2020? Will agree? Oh, will the Commission of Narcotics of the United Nations and the World Health Organization agree in 2020? I don't know how you would.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So, there is a UN treaty,
Yep.
right? And on that UN treaty, cannabis is considered one of the drugs that we're not supposed to, countries participating in it aren't supposed to be allowing, to have full adult or recreational use of, whether it's nutraceutical use or therapeutic use. It's not supposed to happen. So I don't know if that will be remedied or it will ever be remedied.
Right.
The WHO, if they've come out and said something different, then it's just you have different people having their own agendas and opinions. Is there medical, peer-reviewed, published, therapeutic benefits for certain chemicals in cannabis? They are out there, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the UN's going to want to change a treaty or the
Right.
Commission of.
Right. A little bit heavier question that I think
Yeah.
that we're probably prepared to answer today, but thank you
Yeah.
for that question. And I know I've got more coming in, so I will get back to those in just a few minutes. And this, again, we're still talking about the cannabis plant biology here, just some of the perspectives of students. And I love this quote from Mark that said the cannabis industry needs something like this. And so the evidence base, I think, is probably a lot of where Mark's coming from. And just that it's challenging and rewarding. As I mentioned, this course has the same academic rigor as a course you would expect sitting in a classroom, and so you have to put the work in, but the knowledge and the relationships and the professional opportunities that you have as a result of that, I think, is really powerful.
Yeah.
So I want to move in, and maybe that's a great jump off from Daniel's question in terms of what's happening out there in the industry. And I just grabbed a couple little screenshots of just some articles that are current out there in this month or so, and really to demonstrate that there's so much information out there. It's hard, it's confusing, it's hard hard to understand from a consumer perspective. It's incredibly hard to understand what should I take, what would I be interested in taking for what. Are packaging even current?
Right.
You know, what's the packaging laws in Vermont versus California? And so there's just so much information. And so how does this course and how do you approach trying to help students navigate that?
Right. So, I mean, that's why we do use evidence basis for this course, is because if we looked at all the popular culture that's coming out, especially, the popular culture's vernacular, they're using not scientific names for things, then you would just be swamped. So what we're giving our participants, our students, is a toolbox, and it's full of what we've found to be a great set of compiled evidence-based data and, presented by people who are experts in the field of what is known. Right? And then we acknowledge what is unknown. And then students will have that toolbox where they can decide, when they're reading CNN's report that, there's potential for CBD to, who knows, right? And we make sure that it's acknowledged that it's kind of broken down into two industries right now. You have the hemp and the CBD world, and that has entered, in the U.S., that's entered into kind of federal guidance. The USDA is looking at how are we going to regulate hemp. All these states are writing rules on it.
Right.
The FDA is looking at what are we going to do about CBD, because that's a chemical in hemp, which people are now allowed to grow. And then you have the marijuana side of it. And, as plant biologists, the whole thing's fascinating to me because it's the same plant.
Yeah.
But, and the marijuana side, where you don't have that federal regulation and guidance right now because it's illegal.
Illegal still. Yeah.
So, we give everyone a tool chest. And
Yeah.
then they can look at peer-reviewed literature.
Yeah, be more informed.
And be more informed.
Yeah.
They can look at popular articles coming in and news reports. And they can have the background knowledge that they can help decipher those articles for other people.
And I think that raises such a good point, too. I have the opportunity to speak to a lot of the students that come through our courses and write stories with them and their perspective. And many clinical practitioner, physicians have said that it just helps them to have a better language and better understanding of how to even answer questions, because their patients are asking these questions.
Exactly.
They're bringing them to them probably on a weekly, if not daily basis. And so, again, I think this provides the toolkit to be more informed for whatever it is that you're doing for your own knowledge or for your patients.
Right. Yeah.
And so we've talked a lot about, I won't probably go over this again because I think Dr. McHenry has really talked a lot today about evidence-based cannabis education and why we think that's so important. I do want to jump back real quick too, because I see a lot more questions are coming in. Donna asks, I have a disability. Does the learning platform support assistive technology and disabilities? And yes, it does. One of the things that we really want to know in the beginning is what can we do to help you? What assistance can we provide? And so that would just be information that our instructional design team and our instructors just would love to know so that we can help and to support that you have the best experience. And then we have a question, are there any data available of impact of cannabis with HIV medications? Is that something that you touch on at all or have seen any data?
So, I mean, we do touch on drug-drug interactions because cannabis used in that way, it's a drug. And we do talk a little bit about some of the FDA-approved cannabis drugs. Some are plant-derived, some are synthetic. And Marinol is one of those drugs that is, it's actually synthetic, but it's used by HIV/AIDS patients for sometimes appetite stimulation and we don't really get into in this course unless a student asks.
Or they could do it as a research project.
Or they could do it as a research project.
Yeah, student project.
Yeah, but I'm trying to rack my brain on the presentations, and there is some drug-drug interactions. I don't know in particular if we cover
HIV
drug and marinal interactions.
And that's something too, and Kelly's so good about always putting up our email address in the chat box for us too. If you have a specific question like that, we can dive a little bit deeper into that versus, trying to go that deep sometimes during these presentations. We have a question, is there a maximum number of participants in each course?
Yes.
Yes, and it fills. So if you're interested, I would recommend it.
And that is definitely my doing,
Yes.
because I'm sure that some administrators would love to fill these courses, but
You want the
beyond.
best experience for
Yeah,
those students.
so we limit
yes.
it to 35 students, because in an online learning environment, we find that 35 is a good number that works well together. Yeah, so that everyone's voice can be heard.
Absolutely.
And I don't lose
And
my
you have
mind.
the time.
Yeah.
You absolutely want to give the time to each student. Alyssa asks, I see there's a focus on cannabis in humans. Are there any discussions in regards to cannabis in animals? I've noticed that there are
That's great.
quite a few products in the market, right, for animals with CBD. So that's a great, what are the regulations around that? Or is there discussion about this?
So there's absolutely discussion.
Oh, great.
We have veterinarians who take the course, and we've actually had some alum and as well as UVM alums who would love us to work with them to develop a module specifically on
on
cannabis
animals.
and animals.
Interesting, yeah.
I mean, a lot of the research we're talking about is animal studies, because there's not a ton of actual randomized clinical trials for humans yet. So in that way, we're talking about animals, but looking specifically at the products that are offered for animals, we discuss it, but we don't currently have a veterinarian who's involved in the course.
Focus on that
Yeah.
in particular. That's a great question, though.
That's-
Thank
yeah.
you. Oh, Jay says, can I visit? So it's certainly possible.
Yeah.
We just got to coordinate that. And I know a lot of people say, I'd love to come and see what you're doing in terms
Yeah.
of the agricultural side, too. And so that's just something that would need a little bit of coordination. Let's see, we have a question from Chris. I'm a current undergrad in CALS. Welcome, Chris. Interested in cannabis science. What would be a good way to get involved now?
Well, Chris, we also have a undergraduate course that is running right now that I'm one of the directors of, and it's in also the Lerner College of Medicine in the Department of Pharmacology.
Awesome.
So for undergraduates, we cover a lot of the same topics, Chris. It's not as plant biology heavy as the plant biology certificate program, because it is a pharmacology class, and it's going right now, so you could take that. It's offered every spring semester.
And there's still time to add course.
I believe there is, yeah.
If there's room. Yeah, so you might want to look at that
Yeah.
if your course load allows for it this semester. Stephen asks, and I'm wondering maybe if we've addressed this, but I'll just make sure that we've cleared it. Stephen asks, I'm a non-medical professional and alum. Awesome. I'm a manager in a medical cannabis company which has done many clinical trials. Would these courses be helpful?
So,
Yes.
I mean, yes. Yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't be. Perhaps you come in with a higher level of knowledge, and that could just enhance the discussion and enhance the networking. If you're asking, are you going to know more than the course provides? There could be that chance, but like I said, we do have a group of experts teaching it. So, they might not be cannabis experts like you are working in the industry, but they're experts in their given field, like endocrine cancers and medicinal chemistry and pharmacology. So they can help decipher a lot of that knowledge too.
Really great questions, and they keep flying in, so I'm going to try
Wow.
to get to as many of them as possible with being mindful of our time as well. So let me just zip over to some of the logistic stuff, because maybe
All right.
that'll help in some of these questions too. You guys have been asking,
Yes.
is this right for me? And so this is not at all inclusive of everybody in terms of the types of positions that have taken these courses, but I think this is a good sampling of it's the people that come in are very diverse and their roles are diverse.
Yes.
And that's what makes it also super interesting from a student perspective.
I believe so, yes. From an educator perspective, it is fascinating because people do have these diverse backgrounds. But yeah, when you're working with, leaders in finance who have taken this course, and somebody who has multiple advanced degrees in medicine, like MD, PhD with a DM on, and then a MBA too. I mean, we have some amazing
Yeah.
professionals that come in with multiple advanced degrees who are working with people in the finance world in this
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
So it's not really a course that's inappropriate for anyone. You just
Right.
have to be willing to put that time in
Yeah.
if your background knowledge is not the same. is what we're
just
hoping.
really have an interest, and
Yeah.
just really, this is something that is emerging, and it's not like this industry is slowing down.
Right.
And so this information, especially the way that we approach it, that Dr. McHenry has said in the beginning, we were the first medical school to come out with an evidence-based education in terms of medical cannabis. So I think that's really important to consider. Here's a little bit of the logistics. And so here's the Cannabis Science and Medicine Professional Certificate, starts April 6th. The cost, there is a discount for UVM affiliates and UVM Medical Center affiliates as well. A little bit of requirements there, you'll see on the page. As we've stated earlier, we will follow up with this presentation afterwards. And you've seen a couple times that there's email address being put up. If you have additional questions, if there's something today that we couldn't get to, please follow up with us and we will get the answer for you and we'll connect you to the right person. And then here's the details for our professional certificate in Cannabis Plant Biology, starts on March 30th. Price and then discount available as well there, and a few of those requirements which really are about the same. And so let's see if we can get to a few more questions. We've got about 5 more minutes here, and so I want to just see if we can get to as many questions as possible. Let me just zip back up because I see them coming in. What are some of the positions that students go into after completing the course? I don't know, do you have some of that information? A little more anecdotal, probably?
I mean, it's a little more anecdotal.
Yeah.
I think we could probably, I think that the administrator, so continuing distance education, has that information.
Yeah, that would be a great question to follow up if you want to know some of the different opportunities.
Yeah.
And in the plant biology one, we have the last module talks a little bit about some of the career opportunities and some of the resources to expand your opportunities and careers in cannabis.
Exactly. We bring people who are actively working in the industry, whether it's the hemp industry, the finance portion, or on the front lines of medical marijuana. And, we have them talking about their experience and answering student questions. And yeah, I mean, so, what I know anecdotally from what a lot of the students do is there seem to be 2 groups of students that are in the industry,
And then want to
and
get
then
in the
students that want to get in the industry.
Yep.
And the group that want to get in this industry might not necessarily want to be in the industry. A lot of them are medical professionals who have no desire to enter the industry. They just want to have the information
Yeah.
to answer their patients'
Right,
questions.
absolutely. And
But
we've
then
seen
there are
that.
those that
Yeah.
are preparing to open a business.
Yeah. Or look for jobs and
Or
look
look
for,
for jobs.
opportunities and see how that knowledge can benefit them. Absolutely. Rachel says, will the university eventually develop a degree program?
I think that's been talked about.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I know that.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, because we were the first, College of Medicine to offer any kind of cannabis education, and it's been a while, and so now there's lots of other
Yeah.
colleges. I'm still not sure if there's any College of Medicines, but there's lots of other universities,
Yep.
colleges offering,
Yep.
and there's degree programs.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
perhaps.
So perhaps. I see a couple questions here kind of talking about something beneficial to clients in terms of alternatives regarding aging and hospice. And is there any kind of end-of-life discussions that happen related to CBD or hemp or?
Yes, there's definitely, we'll get some palliative care medical professionals as well as hospice medical professionals in the class. So amongst the students, there's definitely discussion about, sometimes it's experiences they've had. There isn't much peer-reviewed information out there yet about that, so we're not necessarily presenting it, but the students are discussing it amongst themselves.
And maybe that could be a project
Yeah.
as well that we look at. Barbara asked, what learning platform do we use? We use Blackboard. And we also, we're just talking a little bit ago too, that we do offer a Blackboard training. And so that could be something, if you want to follow up with an email, we could send you some videos and give you some resources to get comfortable with that online platform earlier so that you feel really comfortable getting into that. And I see Kelly answered that, so thank you. Is it possible to pay for the course with a purchase order, and who would I contact? Yeah, it looks like Kelly answered. Why don't you give us a call and connect with us so we can answer that specifically. I'm hoping to be able to take your medical side of the course. I'm a hemp farmer with our own CBD brand. That's fantastic. We're really looking forward to seeing Patricia in the course. But as we said, it fills. And so if this is something that you're doing, I highly recommend that you jump in there and put your name in that so that we can save your seat. Are there scholarships for this program? I don't think so, but that would be a question that you would follow up. Maybe just shoot us an email and we can make sure to address that.
So let
Yep,
me jump in real
yeah,
quick.
please.
So I believe, that the university, I'm not sure on that part, but the Vermont Student Assistant Corporation, I
Yes.
believe they have awarded some participants
some help.
some help
Some financial
with
help.
that,
Good.
yeah.
Well, that is, we all need financial help. And so, Cash was asking, an engineer take the professional medical and science? And I think we've kind of said yes. You were asking the civil engineer in terms of the medical and science, because we were curious which
Yep.
one that Nikasha was thinking. So, yeah.
I mean, the answer would still be yes. I think there might be a little bit more preliminary background that you would want to do for pharmacology versus the plant biology one, is because we don't dive as deep on that side. But it depends on what what you studied to get your civil engineering degree.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Vicky's also asking, I think I saw it before too, types of topics of the projects for the plant-based programs.
Yeah.
So just touch maybe in our last couple of minutes on the student projects on the plant side.
They're so fascinating, and so it gives me so many research ideas too. But we have some really talented individuals. So some people are talking about breeding experiments that they would like to do, and so because it's in some ways it's not hands-on, so sometimes it's hypothetical, like it's a proposal almost of what they would want to study. So
yeah.
they'll do the background research on what it would mean for this particular experiment to happen, and they'd say, what would happen if I decided to make cannabis a polyploid, which would mean double its chromosomes, like many other crops humans have right now, and some of the potential outcomes. Other students are looking at, how do I start a hemp farm?
Right. Yeah.
Right, so you have very diverse, even in the plant world, you have agronomy and you have some sophisticated science going on.
Really interesting. And that's all in your cohort, so just
Yeah.
the learning opportunities. And
Exactly.
as Dr. McHenry was talking about in the science of medicine, you're reviewing and you're learning and you're reviewing these other presentations from your from the cohort, your peers.
Absolutely, yep.
And so you're learning different ways that people are thinking about approaching things. So just the
Yes.
knowledge that you're gaining from each other, I think, is really important and really unbelievable. Amber asks, does the cannabis science and plant biology show you how to use hemp clothing, how to turn things into hemp clothing?
We don't get into the industrial side of all of the different avenues you can use with the fibers or the seeds. We provide the basic knowledge of growing hemp from our research farm.
And then what you do with it, really.
And then what you do with it right after that particular thing, and the research we've done. As far as all the different potentials for the industry, we don't touch on that.
Yeah, because there's many, as we touched on before. So I'm going to pause there because I see lots of great, Vicky's asking, is UVM planning to offer an extraction course?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. We heavily cover extraction in actually both certificate programs.
Good, so there'd be a lot of base
So
knowledge there.
there is,
Okay.
yeah. There's in our post-harvest processing module in plant biology, it's covered. In science and medicine, it's covered with a couple different presentations.
Good, so much information.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of fun teaching this, don't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great experience to teach. I get to meet so many interesting individuals, and we have assistants teaching it. That young guy you see, he's a graduate student that you saw up on the slides earlier.
yeah.
Taylor, he
Yep.
helps teach as well. So it's a fun experience.
It sounds great.
Yeah.
And we hope that you will join us. We're going to stop there. As we've mentioned throughout the presentation, please get in touch with us. If there's a question that we didn't answer today or something that you want to dive a little bit more deeply into, we welcome that and we look forward to your questions. And we look forward to you joining our Cannabis Science and Medicine and our Cannabis Plant Biology coming up in just about a month to a month and a half. So have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you so much, Monique.
Thank you,
I really
Nicole.
appreciate the time that you take to share this wonderful information and the information that you share with students. It's so valuable, and we really appreciate that. So have a wonderful afternoon, everybody, and hopefully we'll see you in about a month and a half. Take care.